Production of Great Chef's Great Barbecue is brought to you in part by KC Masterpiece Barbecue Sauce. Barbecue is a unique part of American heritage, and KC Masterpiece Barbecue Sauce is proud to be a part of this continuing tradition.
Underwriting for Great Chef's Great Barbecue comes in part from Kingsford Charcoal, who celebrates the art of natural outdoor cooking and the flavor of great barbecue. Kingsford supports this year-round American pastime.
Great Chef's Great Barbecue. Brought to you in part by True Value Hardware and Weber, makers of charcoal grills, gas grills, and fire spice natural cooking woods. True Value and Weber salute Great Chef's Great Barbecue.
Meet Woody Bacon. Isn't that a great name for a barbecue pit, man? For over 30 years, he's loaded hickory and oak wood into this pit. It is the most publicized barbecue pit in the world. And this is A.D. Chappelle, who is trimming some brisket. After it's sliced thin and put between two slices of white bread, it will be the best sandwich on earth. It is topped with a sauce so secret that its recipe is known by only one living soul. And these ribs, when finished with the sauce, well, it's going to make you throw rocks at any other barbecue. Oh, and I almost forgot. Every order is served with the best French fries on the planet. We are at Arthur Bryant's barbecue place in Kansas City. Presidents have been served here, and professional eater Calvin Trillin calls it the single best restaurant in the world. All this might sound like malarkey, or at least delirious exaggeration, but it's not. It's just a rendition of genuine American straight-from-the-shoulder barbecue bragging.
This was Charlotte. We raised her from just a little suckling, and she gave her life for this cause, to take back the championship to Kansas, where it truly belongs, where we cook the best barbecue that there is in the world. It's hard to believe with all the other liars from Memphis here that they cook better barbecue than us. But we're better liars than they are, so that has to count towards winning this championship.
Welcome to Great Chef's Great Barbecue, a sampler of restaurants and recipes exploring the art of American barbecue. Your host, Tennessee Ernie Ford.
Kansas City is the barbecue capital of the world, unless you are talking to somebody from Memphis, Tennessee, the state of Texas, the Carolinas, Chicago, Cleveland, or Orlando, Florida, which happens to be the home of Bubba Lou's Bodacious Barbecue. Memphis is sure in the running for the title. This is the city's World Championship Barbecue Cooking Contest held in May each year. It's one of over 30 such shindigs around the country. They are combination cooking contest, amateur talent show, and fraternity beer blast. Cooking competition here is confined to 3 classic barbecue categories: whole hog, pork shoulder, and ribs. What the meat is cooked on is confined only to the outer limits of a man's eccentricity and bank account. How would you like to serve barbecue out of an enormous jackalope or a sports car? The interest in good old country barbecue has taken a hard turn to the left. When purists talk barbecue now, they sound like fishermen, you know, the kind that tie their own dry flies, or those guys who agonize over bruised martinis. The cooking that may have been America's original soul food is now being federally expressed to Sybil Shepherd. Now, that's a long way from, say, Brady's and Leo's joint. It's an old Memphis favorite that was here before the sidewalk. Note that old grill is anchored to the cement? It's closed now, but you can still find places like it around the country. They all have some things in common. For instance, a lot of them started out as small family businesses. Also, Every place worth its salt has pictures of famous or near famous people who have eaten their barbecue. But most importantly, every recipe, especially the one for the sauce, is a secret. For an interested layman, though, a successful commercial barbecuer is worth watching, secrets and all. For one thing, their food must be pretty darn good, or they wouldn't be open. More to the point, many of the cooking principles they use can be transferred to a home smoker or covered grill with real good results. Things like cuts of meat used, cooking times and temperatures, and their use of seasoning. Now pay attention, y'all. We're going barbecue hunting. Texas is as good a place as any to start, and Bo Wofford as good a guy to start with. He's a barbecue caterer working out of the Y.O. Ranch in the Hill Country. He's fixing to cook a Texas classic, barbecued beef brisket. Only wood is used, 2/3 oak, 1/3 hotter burning mesquite.
It's in good shape. Okay, we'll get them seasoned up because I'll need about 20 minutes on the fire anyway. And all I use is salt and pepper. I don't put anything else on them because I figure we can put the sauce on them when we get ready to eat them. And that some people don't like sauce on their barbecue. They just want the meat smell. I rub it in good and that'll stick with it that way. A brisket is really one of probably the sorriest cuts of meat when you get right down to it there is as far as for anything other than barbecue. For years they'd almost give you a brisket in the meat markets, but then people started barbecuing them and found out they was good, and they cost you as much as lots of your good cuts of beef do now. We'll start it at a fairly low temperature on the fire because it won't have the time to get as hot as it will work up to. In a couple of hours it'll be at its hottest that we want it, and we're going to cook it about 12 hours. To cook a brisket, a good-sized brisket like this, it takes about 12 hours. And I normally just leave it on, and as it gets closer to being done, I can regulate the fire a little bit closer, and once it gets completely cooked, if I'm not ready to serve it, I just wrap it in foil and leave it on the heat so it won't, it'll be crusted over and black on the outside. And at that time, once you put it in the foil, that stops the crusting on it and the burning, and it won't burn. So you can keep them for hours in there on the fire itself without burning.
The Texas barbecue method was adopted and modified in Kansas City. Nestled in the city's farmers market is Winslow's City Market Smokehouse. Owner Don Winslow explains how the indirect heat of his pit works.
This is our pit, been put together here. We have our firebox down here where we load in the green hickory wood. We've got draft controls. The fire burns in here. The smoke circulates up. Inside of here there are a number of cans of water which adds humidity to the pit. The smoke then rolls through the water, comes up here. In here we've got 3 sets of racks. Hot air rises, so consequently the top rack is the warmest. Second rack, moderate heat. Lower rack, very low heat. We put our large pieces of meat on the top shelf, moderate pieces of meat on the medium shelf, and hams, baked beans, things that are going to take a day or 2 worth of smoking go on the bottom shelf. Here at Winslow's City Market Smokehouse, we use a rib rub that we've developed. You can develop whatever you like at home. Some people use a seasoned salt. Other people use different types of rib rubs and barbecue seasonings that are available at the grocery store. I recommend you experiment, try different products, find something that you like. When you find something you like, stick with it.
At Winslow's, spare ribs are seasoned with what barbecuers call a dry rub. It is basically a sort of seasoned salt that can contain various combinations of spices Well, like black or cayenne pepper, cumin, chili powder, paprika, garlic powder, brown sugar, and who knows what else. Winslow's ribs are cooked at 250 degrees for 4 hours. Another Kansas City star is Gates & Sons. It features high-powered marketing and great barbecue. Here also only wood is burned, but it is positioned directly below the meat. Now, it's a fairly hot pit, about 350 degrees, and a slab of ribs is cooked in under 2 hours. The faster cooking time requires close attention. The 3 grill levels allow the ribs to be shifted from the hotter bottom grill to the top as they cook. This is one of the Gates Sons. That's old George.
When you're close to the fire like that, you're about 4 to 5 feet away from the fire right there. You don't have much room, and that fire jumps up and kisses the rib like we wanted it to. Okay, we want that fire in the pit. Otherwise, we don't call that barbecuing. We call that smoking. But our fire is directly up under the slab or the meat, so we call that barbecuing. And ribs are an item that you got to watch constantly. You got to always look at your rib. Always look at your rib.
Heat is controlled and cooking moisture added with a garden hose. Well, now we're in Elvis country. By the way, the King's favorite Memphis barbecue joint was Leonard's, which boasts of not only fine barbecue, but the best neon signs in the world. Hey, listen, I think I'm starting to barbecue brag. Leonard's pit boss is James Willis, who has barbecued for over 50 years. He is trimming pork shoulders, variously known as blade roasts and picnic hams. In Memphis, when someone says barbecue, they mean pork, and, as often as not, specifically pork shoulder. With Leonard's, don't worry about an exotic dry rub. They don't put anything on the meat. The meat cooks over direct heat generated by chunk charcoal rather than briquettes. After lighting, it is broken up and spread around the pit floor. The meat is about 2.5 feet above the coals and is turned every 2 hours. A 15-pound shoulder is finished in 10 hours. Pit temperatures range from 160 degrees to over 400, which would give an average guy fit. But after a half century, the pits and Mr. Willis are friends.
I can take a look at it. I don't have to bother. I can walk in, look in that pit and tell you just exactly what you need. But now, some of these shoulders are about done. Here's one here. You could take this shoulder and about use it all up. Nowhere but right around the bone.
You know, shoulder meat is a Memphis staple. Pulled shoulder meat refers to shredding by hand, usually for sandwiches, but in a barbecue town like Memphis, you never know what you'll find. Gridley's is an old and honored barbecue name in town, and they use pork shoulder in a dish called Blues Barbecue Salad. Pulled meat is chopped and put in the center of a semi-fancy green salad, then topped with dressing. Another odd offshoot is found at, among others, the Interstate Barbecue owned by Jim and Barbara Neely. As far as anyone knows, this originated in Memphis. It's barbecue spaghetti, and it's an acquired taste. It substitutes barbecue sauce and chopped shoulder for tomato sauce and meatballs. Say, speaking of unusual items, at the barbecue shop, owner Chef Frank Vernon serves a sandwich that startles outlanders. Would you believe barbecued bologna? The bulk loaf is smoked in the pit, sliced thick, deep fried, and built into a surprisingly good sandwich. Pork ribs at the barbecue shop also get a little different treatment. They go into a wet vinegar-based marinade overnight and are cooked at around 200 degrees. Direct heat is provided by standard charcoal briquettes with a little hickory wood for flavor. The ribs are not basted or mopped, as they say, during their 3-hour cooking time. Here's a trick you can try at home. The chef covers all his meat with foil to achieve tenderizing. Well, our last 2 Memphis stops are a study in contrast. First, Willard Scott's favorite, Willingham's. When John Willingham describes his barbecue technique, it sounds like he's either tracking a hurricane or defrosting an astronaut in a science fiction movie. For example, in order to avoid shocking his frozen ribs, they are thawed in a 34-degree refrigerator, then dry rubbed with his special seasoning, placed in a warmer overnight where they rise to 185 degrees. Presumably, if they are diagnosed unshocked, they go into John's space-age Wham Turbo Cooker, BBM 13-35. That brings us now to the weather report.
The cooker cabinet allows the moisture to drop to the bottom where it lands in the water pond at the bottom. And as the meat carousel hanging from the meat drives around, the drippings drop either into the pond and float on the water to an overflow and then into another pan, or they land on the heat bar. And if they land on the heat bar, they explode, vaporize, and condense back onto the meat. Consequently, we have a constant explode, vaporize, condense, explode, vaporize, condense. And we have a continuation of the moisture in the cabinet, always there, not drying out the meat.
The smoking process at Willingham's is really unconventional. He sprays liquid smoke on electric elements. It's 80% oak and 20% hickory. No charcoal or hardwood is used. By the way, he offers home versions of the Wham Turbo. You can have one custom made for $3,500. In fact, he sold a limited edition model to a Saudi prince for around $8,000. Of course, that one had to hold 3 60-pound sheep at once. And finally, a more direct approach is taken at the sensationally popular Charlie Virgo's Rendezvous. Never mind shock. Frozen ribs hit the 3x3 ovens, top rack to thaw. Standard charcoal briquettes are used in direct heat. The mop sauce is half vinegar, half water, which is applied as the ribs cook. They are simply moved down and around the grills until they are done, which is in 90 minutes. Owner Charlie Virgo's says that his ribs are technically not barbecue, but with his famous dry sprinkle, they are the hottest thing in town. Whatever he wants to call it, the Rendezvous sells 4 to 5 tons of it in a week.
We put them up here where they preheat, and they get them down to where they thaw out too, and they don't hit a complete thaw because it's not that much heat up there. And we bring them down in here where we cook them on the lower rack. It's got about a 15-16 inch drop off the fire because you don't want them to cook too much because, as you know, a loin rib is as much bone to it as it is meat. So there's not much, you haven't got that much meat to cook. And we watch it. You can, been here as long as I have, you can pretty well tell the heat of the gas, the glass up there, and it gets around about 250, 275, somewhere in there. We try to keep it around about that 250, 275 because we want to cook it as slow as we can, but still we want to cook it to where it works out a hell of a lot better. You know, it does a lot better job. There's some over here that you watch here that he keeps basting to keep it moist. This is a shape that we make ourselves. And there's your rib.
Having surveyed the barbecue countryside, it's time to try your hand at it. Following are some great chefs and cooks preparing dishes designed for home cooking and based on barbecuing principles. The good professor is going to take over for a while right now, and I'm going out and eat a little barbecue.
First stop, the Kansas City area and Overland Park with Rich Davis of KC Masterpiece fame. He's becoming Mr. Barbecue, and this time begins with prime rib roast.
Let's talk about a boneless prime rib roast. I can't think of anything better. We're going to do it traditional barbecue style, which is a little bit different way of serving it. People absolutely love this. First thing we do is we make a dry rub. To make the dry rub, it's about as difficult as falling off a log. Pop all these ingredients in the bowl, like so. Then you're going to want to mix them up very well so you'll have a nice, even mixture. You can mix them up with your hands, fingers, a fork, whatever you want, just so they're all mixed up and pretty evenly distributed. Sprinkle them very generously on all sides of the roast. We'll even lift that up and provide some on the back side. And we're about ready to start one of the simplest, most delicious prime ribs you've ever had in your life.
Cook in a closed unit at 200 to 225 degrees over indirect heat for 3 to 4 hours.
Say a little bit about
Internal temperatures will be 140 degrees for medium rare.
We have just taken this out of the oven, and it looks absolutely beautiful. We'll never know till we slice in there because I've asked them to have this one done rare. Again, it was cooked at the low temperature. This particular slice of meat is delicious as it is, and you'll notice when we showed this earlier that there's little sprinklings of rosemary on top. Our chef here adds that to the dry rub, and it gives a nice additional flavor. I have simply used the one, however, in my own recipe at home without the rosemary, so you can do it either way. We cut this off into bite-sized pieces right there on the plate and dip it, and we call this dippin' barbecue. I like it even better. Here's the end piece for those who like a fairly well-done piece of meat. And if you can believe it, the chef has scored again. Look at that. I don't know if you can see that or not. Does that come up on that camera, or does that come up on that camera? I tell you, that is a masterpiece. We'll cut that about 1.5 inches thick. Is the way we serve it here at our restaurant. Just about like that, and it's one of the most popular new dishes that we have because most people are not familiar with doing a traditional prime rib roast barbecue style.
Rich Davis's next creation uses barbecued pork tenderloin with an oriental touch.
We're going to talk about barbecued pork tenderloin today. A special recipe, has a little bit of an oriental flavor. One of the simplest recipes that we have. These ingredients here consist of nothing more than a cup of soy sauce, 1/3 cup of oriental toasted sesame oil. Make sure you get the toasted dark oil. 3 large cloves of garlic minced, a tablespoon of ground ginger, and then some people like to add MSG because it enhances flavor. I frankly don't use that, but you're welcome to add about a teaspoon of MSG to this. You'll note that we've trimmed them very carefully of all fat. Ordinarily, when you barbecue, you like to leave a little fat on because it'll help to moisten and to baste the meats. However, since we use toasted sesame oil in this recipe, there's no reason to leave the fat on. So these are nice and lean, as you can see, very well trimmed. At any rate, what I'm going to do is simply mix these ingredients in the deep dish. And of course, we were going to add more tenderloins than this to this, but I'll do one recipe for you all. Simply pour in, add the little chopped garlic. Minced garlic is even better than chopped. And we're going to use the ginger. Take all those. Simply make sure that they're well mixed, that the ginger has a chance to soften and doesn't stay in clumps. Once that's done, simply take the pork tenderloins, place them in here. Make sure that they are coated on all sides. Now let that stand there and marinate for probably 6 to 8 hours. You can even put it in the refrigerator overnight. Now, when all that's done and it's marinated carefully, you're going to put that in your barbecue smoker. These can be grilled, but frankly with the toasted sesame oil, it's best to put them on your barbecue unit on one side, your small fire on the opposite side. Make sure you have a dome lid you can close down, and when you add your wet chunks of wood to the charcoal, you're going to get that great smoky taste of good traditional American barbecue with a little bit of an oriental flavor.
The sauce for the tenderloins begins with bottled barbecue sauce.
This is the toasted sesame oil that will match up with the tenderloin. This is a little more soy sauce. Actually, that was 1 19-ounce bottle of barbecue sauce, a third a cup of the soy sauce, and a third a cup of this toasted oriental sesame oil, and then the large clove of garlic that's been minced. Simply take those. You have to stir this very well in order to get the oil mixed in with the delicious barbecue sauce. After marinating the pork tenderloins for at least 6 to 8 hours or overnight, we put them in our smoker, and the ones we're going to take out now have been smoking about 3 to 4 hours at a very low temperature, around 200 degrees. We have these beautiful pork tenderloins marinated and fixed Oriental style. And our executive chef Brad is going to take care of these and show you how we slice them up and serve them. Go ahead, Brad, and have right at it. The only reason I'm having him do this is because, one, he's better, and two, I wanted to go home with all my fingers. This particular recipe also is absolutely delicious cold the next day. The final touch, of course, is our great Oriental style barbecue sauce that I personally use. That's not put on here at the restaurant, but you can make it yourself now that you have the ingredient list.
Richard Perry has been a restaurant force in St. Louis not only as a chef, but as a supporter of American cooking. From his current operation in the Hotel Majestic, he and Chef Greg Mossberger offer delicious grilled lamb chops that begin with a marinade.
Next we're going to start the marinade for the lamb. Equal proportions, red currant jelly to coupon mustard. So then we simmer on the stovetop for 5 minutes to melt the jelly, and it'll let me whisk together.
I'd like to add at this point too that this sauce is a good all-purpose combination and can be used as a savory sauce for any number of different things. Mushroom stuffed with a fennel sausage, for example, lend themselves well to that sauce.
A rack of lamb is butchered.
There are 16 chops per rack of lamb, 8 chops on a side. And take your knife, right underneath the eye, all the way around the bone, and then drag the knife down to give it a French cut to the lamb.
It's important to note here that we don't want to remove too much of the fat, that protective coating around the eye, because then there's no protection when it hits the grill.
All the jelly has melted down. This will then be cooled down and used for the lamb marinade. Marinate it for approximately 30 minutes and then grill it over Ozark hickory.
The marinade should be completely cool before the lamb chops go in. They marinate overnight.
The marinade has been chilled down. Submerge the lamb chops for approximately 30 minutes.
The lamb chops are grilled.
Obviously, when you're grilling, you can use any kind of a medium for the fire. But it's always best if you can get something that's going to impart some flavor to it too. And we find that Ozark hickory gives us a good flavor and provides a good even heat.
Turn the lamb chops once and baste with the marinade.
In the marinade, the basting liquid on top of the lamb on the grill, almost from a glaze on top of the lamb.
For medium to medium rare, grill for about 4 to 5 minutes aside, depending on the heat of the fire. Nap the chops with beurre blanc, a white wine butter shallot sauce, and garnish with fresh rosemary. The next two dishes come from the Alabama Gulf Coast and Chef Gerhard Brill of the Perdido Beach Hilton. They are spare ribs with mustard sauce and pork loin in Hawaiian sauce. The chef begins with the mustard sauce for the ribs.
Okay, we use a little fresh garlic, a little brown sugar, some Creole mustard.
Creole mustard is brown mustard containing horseradish.
Horseradish, some yellow mustard. Use a little white wine.
He seasons with a dry rub of salt, granulated garlic, cumin, black and cayenne pepper. The ribs go on the grill bone side down and are basted with the mustard sauce. This is a gas grill, so the chef watches the ribs closely. He will turn them several times to avoid burning.
I put the sauce on the other side.
Toward the end of the cooking, the ribs are glazed with honey. The Hawaiian sauce for the loin is a warm sauce that starts with reduced pork stock and brown and yellow mustard.
Creole, some honey, horseradish, a little ketchup, and brown sugar. A little garlic.
The sauce is kept warm. It will be served with the loin at the table. Chef Brill seasons the pork loin with the dry rub used on the ribs. Both meats are garnished with sautéed vegetables, which are also seasoned with the meat seasoning. The ribs are finished before the loin, and Chef Brill cuts them. The pork loin is done when the internal temperature reaches 170 degrees. It is served with a Hawaiian sauce. Young Kansas City chef David Alvarado cooks at the Don Lee Walla Inn. He presents grilled seafood kebabs. The seafood marinade begins with a bottle of barbecue sauce and honey.
Your honey, you want to take, pour into your sauce. It's a very, very simple marinade glaze to make. On your country Dijon stone ground mustard, about 3 to 4 tablespoons, depending on how much you like mustard. Just combine the ingredients together.
The seafood kebabs consist of peeled deveined shrimp, sea scallops, and whole mushrooms alternated on a skewer.
A mushroom, and repeat the action again. Very nice.
The marinade goes over the seafood kebabs.
God, I'm good. You can do this in the morning if you like. Get it out of the way, that way it'll soak up the seasonings and the sauce and the mustard and the honey. And it's one thing out of the way you don't have to worry about later on in the day.
Refrigerate the kebabs 12 hours or overnight. The kebabs go over direct heat on the grill. Cooking time depends on the temperature of the coals. These cook for 7 to 8 minutes, turning frequently. Be careful, this sweet sauce could burn easily.
By burning yourself. And we'll go ahead and cover it and let it cook. Okay, let's check our kebabs. They're doing very nicely. They'll start to get there when you see the color of the shrimp change to a nice pink. Again, let's turn them over.
Chef Alvarado will serve fresh fruit with this appetizer. Next stop, Louisiana. Chef Frank Wong, on the left, and Brother James own the popular Trey Yen restaurants in the New Orleans area. This time they present an unusual treatment for grilled short ribs. Frank butterflies the ribs. This is the trickiest part of the dish. The fat side is up and he cuts into, but not through, the meat. He turns it over and repeats, creating a thin, flat strip. Be sure to use the meatiest ribs you can find and chill them well. These cuts won't work at room temperature.
After you butterfry them and pound them so they make sure they have the even thickness.
The marinade is a curry-based blender sauce that starts with toasted sesame seeds. Note that Chef Wong gives proportions in teaspoons. He means tablespoons.
You put about a little more than 4 teaspoonfuls of sesame seed. A teaspoonful of peanut butter. About 4 teaspoons of brown sugar. Two teaspoonfuls of curry powder. Coffee cup of soy sauce. About a tablespoonful of black pepper. And about 1/3 cup of oil. About 1/3 cup that sherry wine. And put in the blender and blend it up.
Blend for about 45 seconds.
Let me taste it first.
The blended mixture is combined with finely grated ginger root, minced garlic, and green onions, white part only.
Pour the sauce into the garlic and ginger juice mix. Mix the onion, ginger juice, and garlic. 30.
Rub the short rib strips and marinate for 2 hours or more in the refrigerator. The marinade is equally good on chicken wings, but with poultry over direct heat, you'll have to turn and baste frequently. Whether it's the short rib strips or chicken wings, cooking time depends on the type of heat, direct or indirect, and the design of the grill. A smoker, for example, will take longer. Both products should be basted during cooking.
Put this one right next to the plate. You know what is that?
We return to the Alabama coast and Chef Eddie Prudhomme. He's the nephew of Paul Prudhomme, who put Cajun cooking on the map. Eddie's restaurant, Prudhomme's Hemingways, has set the Perdido Beach area on fire. This time he demonstrates a classic from his family, Cajun pork roast. He begins with the pungent seasoning.
We're going to start with a cup of onions. Let's go with about 3/4 cup of garlic. This is one of my mother's old recipes. She showed me since I was a youngster. I've been using it for a few years and it works out real fine. We're going to use a little tiger sauce.
Tiger sauce is a brand name for sweetened hot sauce.
A little Worcestershire sauce. That's about 2 tablespoons of each. The product I've used, the steak sauce here. Okay, we're going to put a little mustard in. About 2 tablespoons, 2.5 tablespoons. Okay. We'll take and we're going to mix all this up. Smells good. Cut it.
This is a boneless Boston butt roast. It's already seasoned with a dry rub.
You ready? Okay, we're going to put in a little more seasonings. I guess about 3 pinches. Okay.
Slits are cut in the roast.
And just take your finger and make it the opening bigger. Okay. Take a small spoon and just work the garlic and onion and the mixture right on down in the slots. As I'm doing here. Another good way to do this is with a syringe, but I wanted to show you all the old way. Like they said, old Cajun method of doing it. Okay, take it and add a little bit of the seasoning and rub it in real well. Make sure, that's why I like this grill again, because Weber has a thermometer that is removable and you can inject it in the meat regarding the fat of the bone. Make sure it don't touch any fat or bone. And the pork is usually well done at 170 degrees. So we're going.
The roast will be served with 3 Cajun meat products: tasso, a highly seasoned smoked ham; boudin, a rice-stuffed sausage; and another smoked sausage.
Well, if that ain't Cajun shit, I don't know what is.
When the roast is finished, Chef Prudhomme brushes it with his barbecue sauce, a tomato-based sweet mixture with almost the consistency of salsa.
Sausage first. Then we're going to sauce it real good before we take it up.
A great side dish for this main course is presented by Chef Axel Strombo, a caterer from New Orleans. It's Louisiana jambalaya. It begins with a popular New Orleans product, smoked sausage. It can be grilled or sautéed on the stove. The sausage is then cooked with diced aromatics, including 1 celery stalk. Half a seeded green pepper, a clove of garlic, and some parsley. Cook the sausage and vegetables until aromatics are softened. Meanwhile, 2 pounds of diced turkey breast are prepared.
All right, after we fry off the sausage and the seasoning, we add it into the larger pan. And then we'll add the water, which we're going to do today, 2 pounds of rice. So we have to have 2 quarts of water. We're going to use 1.5 quarts of water and a half a quart or a pint of red wine, any type of red wine. And then we'll return it to the heat. At that time, we're going to add our chopped up turkey. All right, now we'll add the seasoning, which will be some Chinese pepper, approximately a tablespoon of granulated garlic, about a teaspoon of MSG. We will also add about a tablespoon of salt and chicken base, which we'll then mix all this together and put it back on the fire, and we'll bring it to a boil and let it boil for about 5 minutes. All right, then we'll cover it, which will help bring it to a boil. Cooking this now for approximately 5 minutes. Everything's ready. Now we'll put the rice in, stirring it.
This cooks over low heat for about 20 minutes, stirring occasionally. But a dish like this can cook longer, adding liquid if necessary. Remember, in Louisiana, there are as many versions of jambalaya as there are people who make it.
Cover it. 20 minutes, we'll be ready.
From the Kansas City area, Rich Davis offers a classic barbecue side dish, baked beans.
This is our most popular side dish. It's barbecued baked beans. It's simple to make. It's a little unusual in that you'll notice we have some raisins, nice golden raisins, a little chopped apple, a little chopped onion. The mixture is just wonderful. It starts out with nothing more than 2 16-ounce cans of your favorite pork and beans. You'll notice these that I'm going to add in here have been drained, which is very important. Drain all the liquid off of those before you put them in. And I'm going to mix this in this pan, which is probably a little too large, but this is a home recipe size, and I happen to be in our restaurant, so we're going to have to make it work. The next thing you add in there is the one thing I forgot on the first television show I ever did. I put all this together so beautifully, and the callers called in and wanted to know why that guy didn't add the barbecue sauce. So I always put that in first. A little brown sugar, give you the proportions in a minute. These are the golden raisins. Chopped apple, take a tart variety like a Jonathan or maybe a Granny Smith. Your chopped onion. The bacon you're going to lay on top after you mix this up. You'll notice that if you don't like the bacon, you can use some butter in there simply to provide the nice moisture. We prefer to put the strips of bacon on top and then bake. Now you can make this on your grill at home by simply putting it on, leave the lid off, don't cover this. After you mix this up well, put it on your grill for about, an hour and a half. In an oven of 350, you'd probably put this in there for probably maybe an hour at the least, an hour and a half. All we do is simply lay these bacon strips right across there, if I can get them separated nicely, that is.
From Winslow's in Kansas City, Mrs. Addie Winslow presents a nice twist on another barbecue favorite, hot German potato salad. Addie starts with 2 tablespoons flour, 1/2 cup sugar, 1/8 teaspoon pepper, and a teaspoon salt added to the grease from 8 slices of fried bacon.
Stir that in well. Don't want to get it too hot here because there's sugar in there. Now I have stirred together here 1 egg that was slightly beaten, 1/4 cup of vinegar, and 1 cup of water. And I'm going to blend that into this bacon grease mixture. Now I guess I can turn the heat up a little higher. Stir that until this sauce is thickened. Now while that's happening, I will finish peeling my potatoes here. Okay. I just dice these up very quickly like this. I use the Idaho potatoes because they seem to absorb the sauce better than other types, than the red potatoes. It's just really a very simple dish, and it goes very well with any type of meat. It's great to serve on a buffet table because it doesn't have to maintain any certain temperature. It's best just lukewarm. Okay, we're going to cut that up a little better.
1/2 cup diced onion will be added.
I think perhaps I'll just do that like this. You know, none of these ingredients have to be all that precise, but approximately a half a cup of onion is fine. Just throw that in there. And just a dash of celery seed. You know. Oops, I overdid that one. We'll now put in this sauce. And stir that up well. Crisp fried bacon bits, and that's it. That could hardly be a more simple dish. And I could say the beauty of this is that it can be done a day in advance. And if you're having a gathering, it's always nice to have those kind of recipes that you can do well in advance. So it has a lot going for it, and besides that, it tastes great.
Our last side dish stop is Leonard's in Memphis and Gracie Carruthers' famous onion rings. Mix the batter thoroughly. The slices are fairly thick. She discards the outer rings, putting only the next few large rings into the batter.
You don't want it to be too, your onion ring to be too thick, so you shake some of it off. Drop it into your grease.
You know, there's a study out that says in an average lifetime, we waste 5 years waiting in line, 8 months just opening junk mail, a full year looking for lost things, and 6 years eating. Compared to eating for 6 years, 10 hours waiting for perfect barbecue shoulder or brisket can't be a waste of time. Artistry never is. This is Tennessee Ernie Ford hoping, no, knowing that your barbecue will be the best in the world.
Now, what we can do is we can take one of these, even though they've been on a short period of time, we can cut it open and you can see that's very, very tender. I mean, the pink, we're losing the pink, it's going to the white, and these have got about another hour to go because it takes about 3.5 to 4 hours to do our ribs. And man, I'm going to tell you one thing, because our ribs are something else, you know? They are best. If you ever accept something that makes a big something, just I mean, Willie Scott's even had these ribs. He knows coming down the road, and we don't have them, right? You know what I mean? He's just seen those
Production of Great Chef's Great Barbecue is brought to you in part by KC Masterpiece Barbecue Sauce. Barbecue is a unique part of American heritage, and KC Masterpiece Barbecue Sauce is proud to be a part of this continuing tradition.
Underwriting for Great Chef's Great Barbecue comes in part from Kingsford Charcoal, who celebrates the art of natural outdoor cooking and the flavor of great barbecue. Kingsford supports this year-round American pastime.
Great Chef's Great Barbecue. Brought to you in part by True Value Hardware and Weber, makers of charcoal grills, gas grills, and fire spice natural cooking woods. True Value and Weber salute Great Chef's Great Barbecue.